one of the most iconic sounds of the 80s and 90s, the unmistakable sound of Jason Voorhees as he enters the scene and tears up a bunch of teenage children having sex on his property. I'd like to welcome to you guys to a special episode of American Grit. And with us today, we have C.J. Graham, actor Jason Voorhees, Jason 6, Jason Lives, probably one of the best, arguably, in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. My goodness, I'm sitting next to a legend. C.J., welcome to the show. Not only are you an iconic film representation of one of the most incredible characters in hacker history, but you're also an American veteran. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me on American Grit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you have a pretty awesome background, and we're going to get into all the things Jason Voorhees, which is pretty exciting. But, I want to learn about C.J. Graham, the veteran, the man behind the mask, if you will. And, you got a pretty interesting background that, doing a little bit of research on you and the things you've done in your past, from nightclub owner to actor and all the things in between. Welcome, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I grew up in Seattle. Unfortunately, my father died when I was 3 years old, so I never had the dad influence. 49 years ago, I jumped on that train, went in the military, and never looked back. I always tell people I've got my high school diploma right next to my 4-year college degree, which is my honorable discharge.
Right.
And I used that mechanism through my entire career when it came to what I learned as being a soldier.
Right. And it is an education, that 4 years in military service, right? You get a condensed world education in a short period of time. And it'll make a man or woman out of you really quickly.
Yeah, it'll, like I always tell people, I've got a PhD now in common sense.
Right. Because we know what stupid looks like now.
Yes, we do. Stupid be stupid.
Now, when did you join the military?
I went in early 1974. I came on the end of the Vietnam campaign.
Yeah.
Vietnam was over in 75, so I was under that umbrella. Never went to combat. That was your primary years were 67, 68, 69. 73, we're bringing everybody back from the Hanoi Hilton at that time. So, but I still fall under the Vietnam era campaign. So very fortunate. I came back fingers, toes.
Yeah.
A little bit of a hearing loss like most of us that had weapons in our hands. And I was 11 Bravo infantry.
Oh, yeah. All right. Infantry. Now, the during that time period, we all remember and read in history books, there was a pretty volatile time in American history, and not a lot of people were, joining. Were you part of the draft, or did you join of your own volition?
No, the draft had just ended, and I joined on my own at 17. My mother had to sign for me. I wasn't given good direction without a father, so there were some options.
Yeah.
One of them was the military, and I took it, and best thing I ever did in my life.
Yeah. Now, during that time period of seeing all of the anti-culture things that are happening, did you have friends that were going into the military as well, or how did your personal bubble look, and how were you getting all those inputs?
Yeah, my fabric of my friends and my people around me was a little different. Two of them went in, which were my buddies. We all just kind of did the Three Musketeer thing and took off within a 12-month window. And then others did different things. An associate of mine, good friend, I played with softball, baseball, hardball, basketball. Craig Pookie ended up being on the San Francisco 49ers, 1981, won a Super Bowl ring.
Wow.
So, obviously he went one direction, we went other directions. And now I go back and think about it. I enjoyed the sports, but nothing could have prepared me better than going to the military for the rest of my life. So It did give me focus and value, and I still utilize those today when I'm out there talking to folks and running casino resorts like I have for 25 years.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. What are some of the things you took out of your military service? Well, before I ask that question, who'd you serve with when you were in the infantry?
The interesting thing is I was with the second of the, originally I got shipped, and then they decided they gave us a clearance. You may not know this, but Texas has an Audie Murphy platoon. Bunch of gung-ho people from Texas that jump into the 2nd of the 15th Infantry overseas, 3rd ID, and right into Audie Murphy. Well, I was an oddball because they needed a slot. And guess who got stuck with all these gung-ho folks from Texas? Me. So I ended up being with them for a period. And then as the clearances came down, we still had Pershing II nuclear missiles in Germany.
Yeah.
So I got shipped down there to do guard with those, and then cross-trained as a 15 Echo, which is a missile man. In case the missile man went down, the infantry could launch.
Oh, wow.
So, but
That's some
those were the
broken arrow
last,
shit.
yeah, those were the last Persian twos that were put in. And as you came into 80, they were taken out of operation and taken out of Germany.
Yeah, and those obviously all pointed at the current enemy.
The Russians.
That's
the current enemy.
About to light up Europe. That's a whole other story. Yeah, I mean, what was your time period during those that time period? What is it, West Berlin and?
It was a lot different. You know, that's when East-West was exactly what you indicated. There's still guard duties on both sides, pointing at each other, giving each other the finger, and, you know, being sarcastic. Nobody ever went to East Berlin for any reason whatsoever. But it was nice on the west side. You got Heidelberg, Wildflecken, and all these beautiful Ulm. You get to go down to Munich to the Oktoberfest a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
So it was enjoyable from a youthful perspective, and then again as an educational process.
Yeah, that's what I tell my son. I have a son that's in the Navy right now. It's like, man, this is an opportunity for an adventure, right? You know, the Navy, the Navy's gonna take you places that you've never been,
And you'll always remember.
Yeah,
You know, I just made contact with Sergeant Christmas from way back in '75. First time I ever talked to him, got through Facebook a contact. You know. In my era, we didn't have all the social media platforms we have today, so the connectivity, once you left a property, was gone.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't really see each other anymore. So, but it's interesting. You know, you talk a little bit about what we did and what we didn't do and what we shouldn't talk about.
right. yeah, absolutely. Now, from your military career, you got into the nightclub business.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's not very similar path that I was on. You know, I found myself as a bouncer at this really seedy biker bar in the South Chicago area. Oh my God, that was 7 years of probably the most enjoying time I had working the nights. I was a union carpenter a day and then a bouncer at night, and it was damn fun.
Yeah, I did. What I did is I actually started as a bouncer. And within 6 months, I was the general manager of a 15,000 square foot nightclub in Los Angeles, which you working in clubs, you know, that's a pretty good sized place.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'd get, give or take, 1,900 people on any given Friday or Saturday. However, on Thursdays, we had a hypnotist come in, and the hypnotist wanted to do a production shot of his subject going under. So he brought a company called Reel Effects in, REEL, to do his production shot. Unusual thing is that they were the same people that had done the special effects on part 4, Jason Voorhees.
Oh wow, okay.
So they said to the hypnotist, why don't we do something different? Let's put CJ's big butt in Ted White's wardrobe from part 4, and he'll come through the screen and scare all the subjects on the stage. And it sounds goofy, but the rest is history.
Yeah.
I came through that screen, and the Reel Effects people who were going to do part 6 went, we got to cast him for Jason. And 3 months later, they called me, and the rest is history. We're talking about something we did 3 decades ago.
Yeah. And you know how old were you at that time?
27.
27. So you're still jacked right now. You're
Still
a young
the same
man.
size, 250.
Yeah,
You know, a
geez,
little bit of salt and pepper now in the beer and there, but I wear a hockey mask. Nobody sees me.
Right.
I'd only been out in the military, a few years, so I was still hyped up, so to speak. I mean, I still had a 30-inch all-around walk. You know, it was just kind of natural after a while.
Yeah.
So I thought everything they gave me I could do. I did all my own stunts. Never been to stunt school.
Right.
Went through walls, went through doors, set on fire, 20 feet underwater, breathing off a regulator, doing underwater stunts.
Really?
Yet never been to school for it, but I was young and vibrant and
Right.
dumb, maybe.
Right.
Like we all are.
Absolutely.
So, but it was
Taking
enjoyable.
risks.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah. Now, did you at that time period? You work at the nightclub, you do the gimmick, right? And now they're telling you like, hey, we want you to be Jason, right? What's going through your head?
Well, the first thing is, first and foremost is, okay, I've got to quit my job,
Yeah.
to go do the movie. And once the movie is done, you got to realize you're back to being unemployed.
Right.
Being an actor and actress is not an easy stint. But I thought, what a great opportunity. So they tapped heartily me into the Screen Actors Guild. I was in Covington, Georgia for about 7 weeks shooting a film with some other wonderful actors and actresses. And when I got back, I was fortunate enough to fall into another club as a general manager. And it was owned by an author, Jackie Collins, who was Joan Collins' sister.
Oh, wow.
And it was called the Original Tramp of London in the Beverly Center. And members only. And when I mean members only, you had to go through 2 doors to get in there. And people like Prince would come in. And I always remember Prince go to table 43, get a red bottle of wine. Stallone come in and go to the dining side, table 5, 2 bottles of Cristal. Usually had 2 girls and 2 bodyguards. And then anybody else who was somebody in the Hollywood scene, because it was a private location where the folks could come in without being bothered by, fans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's a little behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Would any interesting stories that have come out of that? Anything like?
When I was in Las Vegas running casinos for 25 years, there's always been a slogan out there: "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas."
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's heard it. I worked at the Palms as vice president of casino operations and opened up the first Playboy Club in 2006.
Oh, wow.
So our thing was, what happened at the Palms never happened.
Right.
So I'll just leave you with that.
Understood. I've been to Palms plenty of times. That's fantastic. Now, okay. So Jason, man, I'm not too much younger than you. And growing up and seeing those iconic films and how did it change the life of C.J. Graham in the sense of, you quit your job, you go do the film, then you're back unemployed, right? And you have the whole world in front of you. And you're like, man, I hope this film pays because I got nothing right now. What were you doing?
It really changed my trajectory. I came back and they had a union card. I met somebody at the Original Tramp of London who was a manager, and then put me out there going on calls for commercials. So I started doing commercials. I was very fortunate to get some national commercials with AT&T, Colgate, Gatorade, Miller Beer. And national commercials are a good paycheck. Then I came back and I got a part called Highway to Hell. I played Hell Cop. You may have heard of an actor, Ben Stiller. He was in it for like 6 seconds. His mom and dad were in it. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. 6 seconds. And what's he getting now? 20 million a movie? So I must have missed that boat. Anyway, his mom and dad were in it. They did a great thing. His sister was in it also. Then Christy Swanson was in it. Chad Lowe, Rob Lowe's younger brother, was in it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't get a distribution because the company BK'd a couple weeks before the filming distribution. So it just sat on the shelves until just recently when MGM United Artists bought the library, which included it. So now it's getting out there. But I knew physically I was oversized. I mean, I'm abnormal compared to a normal human being. Tom Cruise is pushing 5'8".
Yeah.
Pretty standard in the industry.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and said, I'd been in the casino industry before that. So I went ahead and went back to Las Vegas and took a couple dollars that I made and bought a house, and then went back in the casino industry. And, I was a supervisor, a pit boss, a casino manager, a vice president, and I worked my way up to a chief operating officer, general manager of multiple casino resorts. And that's where I stayed until I retired about 6 years ago.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, congratulations on the retirement, man.
Yeah. So now I've got a nice ranch in Montana.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate. Got a great wife, 3 horses, so I shovel horse poop every day.
Yeah.
And I got some alpacas and beehives.
Oh, wow.
And
all right.
I've got 3 adult children in their mid-20s. And for me, it's been good. I'm still pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. And you know what? Sometimes luck is important.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I'll take a look over good any day. Absolutely. Are you retired out of showbiz?
Well, no, not exactly, because during that time in the last few years, I've got a couple calls. I did Vengeance 2, Vengeance 1, where I actually grew a beard for 5 months, and they put a long-haired wig on me like a Viking.
Yeah.
And I played Elias Voorhees, Jason's father. And then I did one called 13 Fanboy with Dee Wallace, Corey Feldman, a few other Deborah Voorhees, which it did do well over at Fangora and a couple of other ones that went on. So I'm still just playing with it. But the nice thing about it now is, when you're an actor or an actress, you're struggling to make ends meet. It is what it is. You're working 2 jobs and you get a gig here and there, but until you bust it out, you're still working other jobs. And at this age with the casinos, it put me a good position from a retirement perspective, so I can go do a gig for free if I want. It's not about the money. The last 2 shows I did with Vengeance, both my paychecks went to charities. One went to a veterans charity, and the other paycheck went to a children's charity for burn units.
Oh, wow. That's great.
So it's not that I'm rich. It's not that I'm poor. I'm okay.
Yeah.
If I can just throw something to somebody else, it's a good feeling.
Now, any chance of you doing that role again?
I've been asked that. Tom McLaughlin, the writer-director of Part 6, has written another one. And the 2 parties, Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Miller, have come to some terms of who has the rights to the movie.
Yeah.
2 factors. Number one, I'd love to do it again because Part 6 is one of the more favorable.
Yeah.
And this will be a Part 13. However, there's 2 ways I look at this. I ain't going to space, number one. I wasn't a big fan of going to New York.
Yeah.
But if I could deliver a product as good or better than I did in Part 6, and there's some physical capabilities I want to make sure I can deliver, I'd love to do it. But I don't want to be the professional player that comes back into another game and can't deliver.
Yeah.
The body's gotten a little older, and going through walls and, being shot with a jerk on the back and being set on fire is a young man or young woman's game. But if I thought I could do a performance of quality and the fans would be satisfied, I'd love to step into it. But I'm not arrogant enough to know that if I look at it and say I can't do it, I can't do it.
Right.
I'm not going to embarrass myself.
Yeah, it's and you got to carry that persona, right? You got to do the work of that.
And Part 6 has done well, and I get a lot of good positive recognition for it as being one of the top 2. So with that being said, again, Part 13 would be the greatest because it's a new launching platform to bring it back under the umbrella of Friday the 13th and what it means to the fans.
Yeah.
But I got to be careful to, do I have what it takes physically to give that performance that it deserves?
Yeah. Do you do a lot of yoga?
No, but
does Jason do yoga?
JD was telling about yoga because I got all this scar tissue. I got all these shots in my shoulders and stuff. We got to do yoga. I think guys will probably have a heart attack. So, be over.
Yeah, for sure. What is of all the franchise? What was your least favorite Jason movie?
Well, I always laugh about that when somebody asks me what's my favorite or my least favorite, and my answer sarcastically is, "Well, I thought there was only one, Part 6. I was great."
That was fantastic.
That's my answer because there's others. I will tell you that that they're all different, unique. They all carry their own platform of what they're supposed to do. I know all the guys that have played it. Unfortunately, 3 have died over the last 8 years, probably. Ted White just passed away last year, and he was 93, I believe, maybe 94.
Wow.
And Ted White's a good example. He had a resume as long as my right arm, but he was with John Wayne, all those royalty in characters, but they all knew him because he had played Jason. They didn't know the movies he had done, all the stunts he had done with John Wayne and stuff. They all knew him because he was Jason. Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy that it's become such a cult following in a positive way. And it's kind of an honor to be part of that following.
I would say so. Like, there's only a few movies like that really exist. The Evil Dead franchise, right? I'd say is a comparable to the Jason franchise. Obviously Freddy Krueger. I never was a big fan of the blend. I thought that it should have been so much better. I remember being a kid when it was being released, like, it's happening, it's finally happening, and it was such a disappointment.
Yeah, that's the challenge. I call it, the 80s, which are still romping 3 decades later, the Four Musketeers, which would be Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, Michael Myers, and CJ.
I like it.
Which would be Jason. So, and I have T-shirts that have those on them, and I do wear a T-shirt sometimes that says Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind, I'd like to throw a shout out to. I always rag on Michael Myers. Can I?
Oh, please.
Does American Grit mind if I throw a blade? See, I always tell everybody I see Michael Myers, including the guys that are real men, and I always pound my chest. We use a machete, not an Outback steak knife.
Right. I mean, you got to have some class when you're dismembering.
So I always tell them when I get to sit next to, one of the guys, Tyler Main or whoever, and I just rag on him the whole convention about the Outback steak knife.
Right.
Dude,
Right.
machete, 18 inches, size does matter.
It does. It does. It really does. Now, if you compared your slasher film against any of the best Michael Myers films that exists, what was your favorite kill in your movie versus the best kill ever Michael Myers had?
Well, Mike's kills are a little different systematically. It's really just a Outback steak knife and it's over. There isn't any real trauma, cutting off arms or necks being taken off. It's very straightforward. Boom, you're dead. The Jason character gets a little more violent. Jason tears hearts out, tears arms off, takes legs, pulls heads off, and uses a machete, which is a much more better knife. Now, it's not a marine knife,
Right.
but it is an 18-inch jungle, machete from Vietnam era. So it works quite well.
Right.
So
It's proven.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's one of those things and we get back to the fans. The fans are just so embracive of horror, especially the older horror.
Yeah.
The green screens and things that people do today are wonderful. I love Fast and Furious, but how many times can somebody jump out of an airplane, a C-130, hit a tank, do a backflip, pick up a 50 cal machine gun, and start popping caps?
Right.
It's very entertaining, but any of you could open up your window tonight and Jason or Michael Myers be standing out there by the tree with a machete or a Outback steak knife, and shit's real.
Right.
You
Is the suspension of disbelief, right?
Right.
And that's what I love about if you look at, honestly, in my opinion, I'm a product of the 80s, but that was like the best decade of film ever done, in my opinion. Like, to your point, we have a lot of great technology that makes popcorn movies, but that's why Blair Witch did so well,
Right.
because it was just raw. It's so granular and simple, and it was truly horrific. Seeing Jason, come up on a campsite that you could be doing any day of the week, right, and then get wrapped up in your sleeping bag and bashed against a tree. That's horrifying,
And it's real.
Yeah,
It's
real.
a feasibility. You could do it.
Right.
I always tell people when I ran casino resorts, I use 3 words: qualify, quantify, simplify. Going back to what you said about the 80 movies, they're simple.
Yeah.
They're transparent. There's not a lot of thought to it. I mean, my favorite kill personally was the sheriff, breaking him in half.
Yeah.
Just so no blood, no nothing. Kane Hodder, a good friend of mine, did parts 7, 8, 9, 10. He'll tell you his favorite kill is the sleeping bag, as you indicated. He loved that, picking somebody up. All you hear is a chicken bones breaking in there.
Right.
It's so powerful. It's so terrifying at the same time.
Right.
But it's one of those things where, wow, that's cool. It's not, and I mean this respectfully, it's not just sitting there and playing this game or that game and shooting this person or that shoot and going around the corner to get more bullets.
Yeah.
This is one of those things like game on. So I always tell people, if you buy a machete, put it on the wall at home, get up to go to the bathroom one morning, it's missing, run.
Right.
You don't stop,
don't
don't
ask
look for
questions.
it, don't open doors, just run. Because somebody's going off in the house.
Right. One of the, I think the other thing that makes Jason such an imposing character is the fact that the man never runs,
Never.
ever. Right? He just strolls with a long gait.
Yeah, I tell people now, in the 21st century, you better be careful because, Jason's got GPS. Just to clarify things. But I said in the old days, it was, Scotty, beam me up.
Yeah.
So I used to always now, Jason doesn't run, but he does walk forcefully.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at my walk, you can tell right there, it's 30 inches all around. It's a full-blown march.
Yeah.
And you just got to put your feet down, make sure you hit ground because you can't see very much. It's no peripheral vision whatsoever. One eye is blacked out. So the purpose of putting each foot down cosmetically on the ground also makes you have an authoritative walk.
Yeah. It's imposing.
Yeah.
Imposing, absolutely. Man, so you retired in Montana.
Love it up there.
What was the? Because I have a similar dream, right? At the age of 50, I want to just retire, go off in the middle of nowhere, have some land, a couple heads of cattle, and some horses. My wife's like, you don't even know what kind of work comes involved in that. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to do it.
When we moved, I retired at 60, and it was right about the time with, do I sign another 3-year contract with the casino, or am I good? I ran a spreadsheet and figured, yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I always knew I'm okay. With that being said, the first thing you got to always remember when you retire is your house has to be paid for. Number one. Number two, make sure you got medical covered. Well, I'm a veteran, so I've got that wild card in my back pocket. If I need medical treatment, I just got down to the VA.
Yeah.
So that covered that. But we decided to go to Montana because it's open. It's got about 1.1 million people in totality. And bought a nice ranch, got the horses, as you were indicated, got some alpacas, and got some beehives.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is every day you got to clean out the pen, a little bit of horse poop.
Yeah.
So you put on your dirty boots and you move it out, throw it, feed everybody, and go back and do it again at night. And if it's a good day, you brush them out really nice, throw a saddle on them, and ride them for a while.
Yeah. What made you choose Montana?
Two factors. Number one, my mom had always talked about Montana when she was younger. We had a 40-acre ranch in northern Arizona when I first retired. And about three years into that, the wife said, "Oh, I'm not really confident here. I don't really like it here." And I'm like, we're retired, right? So I said, well, let's go ahead and get a appraisal on our ranch, and whatever that value is, we'll spend it somewhere else. And she made a couple suggestions, and now how about Montana? And so I went up there for a week and drove east, west, north, south, till I found something that was compatible in the price range and met our expectations.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I heard that some of the most beautiful country. I've not been to Montana
Yeah,
yet.
it's gorgeous. It really is. It's different. It's unique. We're in Yellowstone County, so we're about 120 miles from Bozeman. I'm about 9 miles outside of Billings, and it is beautiful. There's not a lot of traffic there. It's an open carry state. Everybody carries a weapon, so nobody acts really stupid.
Yeah.
There's so much respect because you already know everybody has a weapon.
Right.
So nobody acts goofy, so to speak. But I enjoy it. I have 22 acres. I have a nice gun range on one side of my ranch that, I take my wife and I go out there and we pop some caps and, train a little bit. And, go back to the house and we go to town. She's going to Northern California next week to see our daughters. They're in Northern Cal, so she'll go spend a week with them. It's an international airport right there. So it's a hop and a skip to just about anywhere in the world. This month, I'll be going to Sweden to do a convention.
Nice.
So it'll be kind of fun. I'll be there for a week, and my wife's going with me because it's Sweden. She wants to see Sweden. So I'm like, okay. Otherwise, she doesn't really travel with me as much. She stays home and takes care of the animals for us.
Yeah. You a big fan of Europe?
Been there. I spent some time in there, like I indicated, in the military. So I got to go to Heidelberg and a few different things. But it's one of those things, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So to me, but, I went to Manchester a couple of years ago to do a show. It was kind of neat. And then, of course, went up and spent some time in Holland to visit my family's relatives up there while we were over in Germany.
Okay.
So we kind of make a vacation. We go to those big or out of the country.
Yeah. So you have ancestral roots there in Sweden?
Yeah, she's got, her family moved to California way back in the 60s. She's got 9 brothers and sisters in her family in total, and then mom and dad. And the rest of the family stayed over in Holland. When the Japanese took over Indonesia, her dad was put into concentration camps, and when it was given back to the Indonesians, anybody that had a Dutch passport was kicked out of Indonesia, even though they'd lived there all their lives, didn't know nothing. They were of Indonesian flavor. They sent them all back to Holland. So none of them had ever lived there before. They didn't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
So he left and went to America, and the rest of his brothers and sisters and her mom's brothers and sisters stayed in Holland.
Wow.
So she's got a couple, 300 family members over in Holland.
See,
she speaks Dutch.
That's incredible. See, you get a little history lesson here on
Yeah.
American Grit. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, actually it was when Japanese took it over during World War II. It was a concentration camp.
Yeah.
So just like any other concentration camp.
That's incredible. It's incredible. I spent some time over in Europe, and It's an interesting place. The food is much different. They don't have any preservatives
Right.
and that stuff. Like everybody shops for today's food, and which is probably why they're so thin and healthy looking, right? But everybody smokes cigarettes there, so I don't understand that.
They do that.
But I wonder what the cancer, the lung cancer rate is in Europe.
Well, one thing I know, you're right about Europe. I mean, the food is completely different from processing, and there's not drive-throughs on every corner, so there's got to be some benefits to it, maybe some cons with the fact that everybody smokes, but I'm not sure which would be a better trade-off. Personally, I don't smoke, so I can't walk in those shoes and give you a definitive answer.
Yeah, I smoked for a long time, and I loved it, man. Really did. It was, I was a pack of Newports a day.
Yeah.
But I've since given that up. I feel much better. But I don't know. My wife's on this big kick right now where like Red 40 and all these dyes and chemicals. It's like, get it out. We're not eating that trash anymore.
I'm very vanilla when I eat. So just give me a steak, baked potatoes, give me some eggs and some bacon and a big glass of milk, and I'm a happy camper.
There you go. Well, you're a Montana man, so that's what I imagine they eat every day, right?
So.
That's fantastic. So what's the future look like for you, CJ? What's next on the horizon?
I'm really fortunate. I'm still pretty healthy, 66. So I'm in the last 10% of my life, I always say.
Yeah.
That would put me around 72. But I'm going to continue to do projects that come along. I have no desire to, step in front of the screen and be quote unquote a hero. But for me, it's fun. And when you get to enjoy it, that's when the odd things happen. As far as the conventions, you can do 25 of them a year. I try to do 10 or 12. And I'm just shocked and just pleasantly pleased of the lines for people that want to get an autograph from Jason Voorhees. And I giggle at it, but at the same time, one thing about when I give autographs and photos to the fans, my lines are a little longer than most for two reasons. Number one, it's a very popular character, but I take 3-4 minutes and talk to each person. To me, if I can connect with that little person in front of me, it's 4 years old, and they bring me autographs with crayons that they've drawn for Jason. I teach them the first day of capitalism. Okay, I'll tell you what, you sign that and give it to me, and I'll sign one of mine and give it to you for free.
Right.
Because this is how we do this. And they'll come back.
Yeah.
I'll see young people, and I'm always like, have you watched the movie yet? And they're like, no. Or have you watched the movie yet? Yeah, I watched it with my grandma. But the interesting thing is, it goes over 3 decades. So the folks that come up to me could be my age. Mm-hmm. They could be your age. They could be 30. People remember watching it the very first time with their sister, their brother, looking over the couch, spying on it. So they all have fond memories of the Friday the 13th. And there's something within their family that the connectivity that brings them to get an autograph from Jason. Yeah. So, it's something you have to take advantage of, but at the same time, proud. You got to show integrity and do whatever you can to give them a positive spin on a character, in my case, that killed 18 people.
Yeah.
Rather than just make it all about, guts, blood. So that's me positively. I try to lay it out positively. Kids come up and I talk about, how old are you? And they'll say, I'm 15 or 16. I go, well, remember, I taught my kids you had to maintain B's, a B average to keep the keys. And the parents will be back there going, I like that. So it's a good opportunity to be a teacher is what I'm trying to say when you're sitting there with a lot of young folks.
Yeah. The where would you like the Jason character to go?
I'm hoping part 13 has a good success. Part 6 was a good launching platform, bringing Jason back. Up to part 6, Jason was not the principal of the movie. That's what we call the principal actors and actresses. Yeah. But in part 6, all of a sudden, Jason became around every corner. Yeah. Jason. I'm hoping they keep that momentum going forward. I'm hoping part 13 really gives a platform. It doesn't matter how the storyline is written as long as it's written with quality.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of girls partially naked or whatever. Everybody's seen that.
Right.
It's just the craziness of how it looks.
Right.
And I'm hoping they do a really good job because part 13 will be just that, part 13. And if it's not the best of the best, then you might as well just throw the franchise away.
Right. It should be, right? That's an iconic number in the series.
Exactly. And the two parties that have been in court for the last 10 years have come to their differences, and however they can bring it back together.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they forget the reason it's so popular is the fans.
Right. Or they forget who they're making the movie for.
Exactly.
Right.
And I understand that sometimes, and that's where I'm a big fan of making sure you take care of the people in front of you.
Yeah.
Doing the conventions, a podcast, it's not just you and me. It's the people listening to us that are huge horror fans.
Yeah.
And they want to know all about it, what goes on behind the scenes, things they're not aware of. And it gives them a good day.
Yeah.
You know, they walk away, oh, that's cool. I learned something.
Oh, yeah. 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 I learned after every Jason flick, this motherfucker's psychotic. Yep. Excuse my language. Yeah. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just sitting, just thinking of all the great memories of watching these flicks over time. Do you have any idea of director? If you had to choose a director of the 13th iteration, what director you think would fit?
I'm going to be a little biased with Tom McLaughlin that wrote Part 6. Tom McLaughlin is old school, really enjoys the universal horror.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably got the flavor to launch Part 13 with a little bit of comedian, but at the same time, seriousness.
Right.
I've seen some of the stuff he's written for it, and he has a pretty good vision of what it would look like coming back to life from Part 13, thus being prepared to launch or relaunch the platform of Friday the 13th for number 14, 15, and 16. A lot of times people just do their own film, and it's a little bit selfish.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going to worry about me. Well, you know, we're military. We don't think about me. It's us.
Right.
You know, and the word me is nice, M-E, but how hard is it to take an M and turn it upside down to a W and say we?
Right. Yeah.
Not complicated. It's 180 degree. And so he's one of those people who think of what we can do for Friday the 13th for the rest of the series after him and I are long gone.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy. You know, he's really got some good stuff. Older gentleman now, I think he's like 74, still got a band, rock and rolls, you know, heavily with the Sloths. Used to open up for the Doors at Whiskey Go-Go back in the 60s, true story. So his heart has always been music, but he went into filming. So a very good variety.
Yeah, just creative mind, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, that's incredible. Tom McLaughlin, you said?
McLaughlin.
Oh.
Yeah,
what
good guy.
What other things has he done?
Well, he's done not only the filming, he's done about 13 films in his career, along with the band work that he's doing and still doing. Like I said, the Sloth is the band, and you know, we SLOTHS. And it's him, like he says, a bunch of old guys, long hair, still rocking out like Iggy.
Right.
You know, and it just rolling and stuff. But the thing about that's his life. He's done it forever.
Yeah.
And then he used to be a mime when he was younger. So the creativity and the entertainment value, that's what he's written for.
Yeah.
That's him. He's not working. He's just doing what he does.
Right.
I think that's going to give you a natural formula for what could be a very, very, very good Part 13.
Oh yeah, I would love to be on Part 13's marketing team.
And get killed. Now, you know, I've said this. You know, it'd be kind of interesting in Part 13. There's still half a dozen of us that played Jason historically. It'd be kind of cool to show our faces and do cameos and have us each killed.
Right, like
by the new Jason.
Jason in the multiverse.
Well, it's everyone dies now. The new Jason in Part 13 takes over.
Yeah.
But I'm just driving a truck. You know, you still got all the kids, but here's this truck driver or this, you know, guy underneath the car, and Jason drops it on him, and it's each one of the Jasons historically being taken out.
Really? That'd
So
be
the
cool.
new champ is in, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a Rocky of the Friday the 13th.
That'd actually be pretty fun to watch.
And
I'd sign up for
I
that.
think what you said is true. I really believe that the cult following of fans that know all of us want to see it.
Yeah.
There are some that think Kane's better. They think that CJ's better. They think that Warrington is better. But for them to go see who they think is better get wiped out, I think it's got its own draw to it.
Right. What do you think all the other surviving Jason guys would sign up for?
Oh, I think so. You know what? The young guy that was in it at the very beginning, Ari, he was in it for 9 seconds. He was just a boy, 13. Yeah. And he's out there every week doing shows and signing autographs, and he's got a band.
Right.
He's got a great band, and he's out singing and having a great old time. He's made a career of it.
Right.
You know, I went back to the casino industry, but he's made a career playing music. A band he's got. The band was called Jason at one time. He plays all these horror musicals. He's been through so many different types of bands. It's just like amazing. He's an artist.
That's fantastic. I tell you, there is something about the that 80s horror genre, right? That just built again.
Well, you know, if sometimes people forget, number one movie in 1980 was Top Gun.
Yeah.
86. Top Gun was it.
Yeah.
My movie came out in 86 too. So, I mean, it was just a B movie, as they call them. But Tom Cruise, 1986, Top Gun was it. That was number one.
Yeah.
And then so many decades later, it just became so iconic.
Yeah. Yeah. Going to the Blockbuster to pick up the VHS.
Oh, you remember those, huh? You might have to explain that to your fans what a Blockbuster is.
Right, for sure, man. Like I remember those. Like my dad take me Friday, and every week, as all the slash films are gone, I'm like, when do we need to get here? And then you're talking to the people at the desk on the like the return dates and trying to figure out when to line your schedule up.
You have them go look in the box to see.
Now it's all streaming.
Yeah. So, but again, I've been extremely fortunate with my life, my career. The military gave me the foundation, gave me the pride to move forward. I always laughed because my first job out of the military was driving a porta potty to construction sites and dropping them off. And, you know, in those days, we're reading maps, you know, with grids.
Yeah.
Not like GPS, all gridded, all over town. And I drop them off. People would laugh. Oh, my God, you suck poop for a living. And we used to say, hey, don't laugh. Your poop is our bread and butter. All right. So we had a slogan about that, you know, but that was my first gig out of the military.
That's good.
You know, right out there and picking up those poop.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Those first couple jobs once you transition are always the shittiest.
Yeah,
no
the
pun
shittiest.
intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. Yeah. They were, trust me, throwing that blue stuff in there.
Yeah. But you know, I think to your point, like the things you learn in the military, you know, the discipline, you know, the character, those values that they're all imprinted on us. It's better than any college education you can earn, right? We talked a little bit on the front side of this episode of, you know, the experiences you get while in the military, the knowledge that you gain, and the wherewithal that you step into. You know, that you can't put a dollar's amount on that, right? And you know, that's where I think the veterans have a step ahead when they enter the private marketplace, that they can, you know, revert back to those things that separate and delineate the veteran from the private workforce, and you can actually, you know, apply those things and, you know, make something of yourself and rise above the rest, because, you know, all these people they're pursuing the other route, which is not wrong by any standards. You know, it's a different path, right? And the knowledge, you know, one path you earn faster than the other.
Yeah, you know, me personally, there were years ago that if you hired a vet, the government paid you a flat fee for hiring vets, and this was back in the 90s. But my vice president of human resources always knew that if anybody came in with a honorable discharge, move them to the top.
Yeah.
Check their qualifications. I need the best of the best, but I will tell you, anybody that's served military, they're not going to just get upset because somebody might have raised their voice a little bit.
Yeah.
They're going to take that as a challenge. You know, so for me, and the one thing about vets I think that have challenges when they come out is they are used to being instructionally told what to do, because the process inside the military is regimental.
Yeah.
And when you lose that regimental, it's like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing now? And you have to make that transition, or have somebody around you who's got military experience to make that transitional period easier.
Yeah.
And then you become an independent contractor where you're learning to make all the decisions by yourself, where before you were waiting to be instructed.
Yeah.
But I have, you know, me again, rising up to a chief operating officer, general manager. I had 2 casino resorts, give or take 2,400 employees on any given day, solid $100 million payroll with benefits,
Yeah.
75 million in marketing, and well over half a billion in revenue.
Right.
It
incredible.
wasn't brain surgery in my mind.
Right.
I was like, well, this is easy, and I was smart. I hired a lot of good people around me too. A couple of them had MBAs and bachelor's degree, but it was nice. But the stuff they had learned structurally in books, but it had never been applied out in the field, so to speak.
Right.
Because we all know, even in training in the military, it works when you're trained, but when you get in the field, you got to adapt.
Right.
They don't work the same way.
Yeah.
The weapons don't fire like they're supposed to fire in perfect conditions.
Right.
So you adapt, you overcome, and you do some improvising. And the civilian life is the same way. But a lot of people that come out with their college degrees don't understand. You got to modify. It isn't black and white when you get to the real workforce.
Yeah.
I always tell my people, I used to say, I don't want to hear about this thinking outside the box. That's boring. I want you to go past Pluto to the next universe and find me something fresh.
Yeah.
All right? Then come back. So I always thought a little bit beyond,
Yeah.
obviously, because there's always something new and outstanding. And then you vent it, qualify, quantify, simplify. You vent it, and then you make it simple as possible so everybody understands.
Yeah.
Why has it got to be complicated?
Right. Right.
If you're the only person, Tim, in the business here that understands it, that's great for you. But gosh forbid you break an ankle. Gosh forbid somebody hits you in the side of a car. Does everybody know the mission?
Right. Yeah, that's terrifying.
And it is. So to me, it's nobody can do my job but me. Nobody can have my job but me. But everybody knows my job.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity
good
to
leader.
teach people leadership.
Yeah.
And I've always said dictatorship is easy because anybody can be a dick.
Right.
It's
right.
true, but leadership takes time and patience, and you've got to educate, embrace, and allow people to make decisions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We like to think of it as benevolent dictatorship here
Yes.
at the
And
old
it is.
Grunt Style because that's just the way the world works. But as a former chief operating officer of a multi-billion-dollar business, definitely involved in the hiring process and the human resource aspects of the organization. We talk about veterans and the things that makes them different, but from somebody that was hiring for your organization at executive leadership levels down to operator levels, what was the things you were looking for when you said bring that veteran to the top of the hiring? What specifically the traits that you're looking for?
When I spoke to Robin, who was our vice president of human resources, and the first thing I told her is, look, if you're going to find a vet, give them a shot. Number one, they've done everything for us. If I recall correctly, give or take 3.5% of America has served. Give or take approximately 1% are active. It's a very small percentage margin. We owe them more than they owe us at this point. And the secondary fees was that if find something they're interested in, then we can put them in. And if we can train them, they're the easiest people to train because they want to be trained. But you just can't say, here's the job and throw them out. You've got to give them the ABCs of it because they're used to being educated under that formula as they transition into civilian life. So if your leadership in charge isn't willing to give you the formula to transition you from taking orders to or receiving orders to giving orders, that's a new, not everybody was an NCO or a lieutenant. Some of us were just poor NCOs like me, working for a living. But the transition can be the most difficult, not understanding the methodology of civilian jobs. And a lot of people in human resources don't know how to communicate well to a veteran.
Yeah.
It's not that it's bad, it's just a little different, just a little tweak. You're giving all these people that, need a mental health day off, hugs and kisses, but the vet, you're not saying, well, what do you need?
Right.
Inquire, make those inquiries, and then again, qualify, quantify, simplify.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah, 100%. We take a lot of personal interest in that aspect of our business. Making sure that we're having those conversations and with our veteran employees. I remember early in the business, and I talk about this story a lot in the sense that we had a lot of combat vets, and it would seem like almost daily I was getting individuals coming into the office and just kind of breaking down and sharing an experience with me. for whatever reason. But creating a space for that to happen or whatever. But we started thinking, like, how do we, we have a part to play in this particular process of the veteran that is struggling. What does that look like for Grunt Style? And then we really started thinking about that in the early days. And from there, we developed the buddy program and pairing veterans with veterans at work. So, they can, what we started to see was creating conversation. That conversation was things that they were able to talk about that they weren't normally or capable of having conversations with their loved ones or their family and yada, yada, yada. And then you started to see a sense of healing come from that, because now the quality of work is improving,
right.
The output's improving, the camaraderie is tightening up, and you're seeing a general positivity happening within the business. And it was all from identifying that, we have a particular set of needs within the cohort of this labor pool. And if we don't meet those, then we are failing the cohort and as a business.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand. When there's an old saying: if you haven't walked in somebody's shoes, you really can't experience them. And if you haven't taken the first 60 or 90 days as a soldier or a Marine or a Navy person and been torn down to zero, and then rebuilt into what they want, but when you get out, that rebuilding process is exactly what you just said. That embracement of the buddy system, and no longer departmentalizing, but trying to bring it out to the open. Most folks aren't going to have a high conversation about their past. There might be something funny we'll talk about.
Right.
We all did something goofy at Munich, but as far as the military thing, there's not a lot of conversation. Did my job. That's that.
Right.
But I think if we as civilians understood, and if we as civilians, more of us were ex-military, I'll vote for a politician, not because of their qualifications 100%, but if they're serviced, in one form or another, I already have a higher regard.
Yeah.
I'm not a big person of just hiring somebody because they're purple, green, or blue. I hire a person based on qualifications. So if there's a veteran that can meet that qualification, they go to the first of the list. There's no competitive nature. If there's three people the same equality and one's a vet, I'm taking the vet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
That's right. We have the same policy here. Top of the list, man.
I'll come to work for you when you're ready. When you're taking vacation, I'll take care of things. I'll take charge when he's on vacation there, JD.
I'll go shovel horse crap. You
build your arms up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
I mean,
You're looking great.
It's working. I threw some of your boys around yesterday when we did some content. So even some of your big boys.
Oh yeah.
They were moving around like, dang. A couple shirts got ripped too. Sorry about that.
Hey man, beer guarantee. That's what it's for. Right on, CJ. Well, if there's anything that you would leave the audience with right now, what would that be?
Well, I know, American Grit, thank you for having me on your show, Tim. I appreciate you. I am a fan of your product for years.
Yes.
Before you grew into what you've become as a multi-million-dollar corporation. Love the fit, love the wear. From a person my size, I feel them, I enjoy them. I'll wear them more than any other T-shirt out there, and that's a fact. That's not a pump up to anybody. When they shrink a little bit on me, because I do get double X, but after about a year, there's some movement. I keep thinking, am I getting bigger? And the shirts adjust at that point, and I send them over to a relative. He wears the shit out of them, man, till there's holes in them. So congratulations on the success of your business. And I appreciate every vet that works there and every vet that you've come in contact with, because it's good for us as veterans to have outlets. I use a gym up in Billings. It's called Advanced Performance Center, and it's nothing but vets and active duty. Best gym in the world, because everybody's on that same mindset, and I can just really get a vibe what you're doing here, what you've created. So congratulations on much success, Tim, with what you've done, and have you built this into a multi-million-dollar industry. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. We have an incredible team here at Grunt Style, and you got to throw around about a third of them.
I got the beat up on for you.
Yeah, right on.
Any disciplinary issues I
live vicariously through you. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you again so much.
Honor. Absolutely. And, thank you for being a patriot, a contributor to this wonderful nation, and the work that you have done in your private career, putting veterans to work, man. That's commendable. and and then being an icon within the pop culture community. That's got to be something in itself.
Who knew?
Yeah, right. That's crazy stuff. But you're an incredible human being, and we're just glad to know you, and thank you for being a fan of the brand.
My honor.
And ladies and gentlemen, till next time, you know what to do. Be kind to one another. Wash those stinking hands, and we'll see you next time.